sit down there for a minute, and I thought, man, I know exactly what to speak on after he sent that name, because it was one of the things that run across my mind. It's like her, she was just singing that song, I will make room for you to do whatever you want to. Even though it's a pretty song and it feels all warm and fuzzy, when you get to that place, when your back's against a rock and a hard place, can we still say, right at that moment, what I was going to speak on tonight is forgiveness. And to me, that's if I could put a label on the center of what Jesus died for, it would be forgiveness. And it was so important to him when he gave him the Lord's Prayer. One of the things was, forgive us of our trespasses as we forgive those that trespass against us. So right then, do you still sing when somebody has ripped your heart out? Can you still sing, Lord, I want to make room for you to do whatever you want to? I read a thing when I first got up this morning that really hit me, because the subject I'm speaking on tonight, I thought this must have been something God gave me this morning, but here's what it said. It said, humbleness don't get offended, pride does. Humbleness don't get offended, pride does. So, can I tell you what part about us gets offended? Is our pride. And to me, Michael Bolton, he sung a song that says, it's time to get down to the heart of the matter. But my will gets weak and my thoughts get scattered. But he said, but I think it's about forgiveness. But I think it's about forgiveness. And I thought, that guy probably don't even go to church nowhere. But, he's got a pretty good pull on what it's all about. It's about forgiveness. Because, Jesus made sure that we knew, forgive us of our trespasses as we forgive them that trespass against us. I was thinking about a story today. I thought, what kind of story would a man put with something like that? Then I thought, I don't know of anybody that had a better reason in the Bible to get offended any more than what Joseph did. But you got to remember what caused his brothers to act the way he did. Because can you imagine having 12 children in the home, 12 kids, and all 12 of the kids, they look up at the midnight oil burning, and dad's in there working on a coat. Through the daytime, and dad's still in there working on a coat. Come the evening time after he's fed everybody, dad's still in there working on a coat. And you got 12 kids and you're working on one coat. So your mind has got to think, if you're a kid, well, dad's probably fixing him over in a coat. But when you get that coat all done, and you got 12 kids in the house, and you bring it out and you give it to one kid, that would be kind of like saying, what would you think about somebody that had 12 kids, and it was Christmas time, and they was getting everything ready for one kid, but not the other 11? You talking about something that will draw up unforgiveness in your heart. And that's the reason, you get into that scene where all these brothers, the dad tells Joseph, after he gives him his coat, he says, all the 11 brothers are out in the field working, and Joseph's at home, and the dad looks at Joseph and said, hey, Joseph, I'm sitting here wondering, why ain't you out in the field, brother? Who are you? You know what I mean? I'm not even one of the boys, but I got enough sense to know if there's 12 boys in the house and 11 of them's out in the field working, I want to know why you ain't out there. Well, probably because his dad's a little pig. I hate to admit this, there ain't nobody lives in my house with 5 cats, and I love all 5 of them, but I got that one that's my pig. I love that little part. She's skinny as a rail. She's a little girl. I call her my little sweeter potato. She's skinny as a rail, and she'll jump up on me and love all over me, and but on the other side of it, you got Joseph's 11 brothers. And here Jacob is making his coat just for that one. All these boys are out in the field working, and then then Dad looks over at him and said, you know, Joe, if you don't care, why don't you go out in the field? And if I'm not mistaken, the Bible even said, he said, please. And check on your brothers and see what they're doing. And then when Joseph starts out in the field, before they ever get there, before Joseph ever gets there, his brothers are mouthing him off. Oh, there comes Daddy's little boy. Look at him coming out here. They even said when he's coming, they said, well, let's kill him and throw him in this pit right here. Let's just kill this guy. And I thought, man, these guys has got some anger built up. And I'm telling you, to me, anger is something that you either let it go or let it grow. But it's going to do one of the two. I mean, me and Neil just come from a church. And, you know, I'm not mad at nobody. Me and Neil actually just come from two churches. We was together at one, and then we ended up together at the other one. And we was both very much hurt at both churches. And when we left the first one, we wasn't the only one that left. There's about 5 or 6 left. And I'm just saying this to fill in the story. I got a lot of, you'll hear more story than you will anything tonight from me, because I got a lot that goes along with this that shows you the power of forgiveness. But anyway, I'm not going to say who, but we went in, this pastor called for a meeting in this last church we was in. And the church before, we had left it. And for some reason, me and Neil was trying to work towards forgiving that pastor for the way we was hurt. And I tell you, they ain't no hurt like family hurt you or your church family hurt you. That hurt is hard to swallow. And that's the reason when you can sit there and your heart's broke at the way that pastor just did you, and you say, Lord, I want to make room for you to do whatever you want to. Buddy, that's a big deal to say, because it's like me laying down and I say, listen, Lord, while I sleep tonight, can you do open heart surgery on me? Rip it out. Jerk the thing out of my chest and cut this junk out of me, because I don't want to carry this stuff. Because I can tell you from experience, there's nothing heavier to carry than unforgiveness. I'd rather carry 1,000-pound steel ball as carry unforgiveness in my heart. And that's the truth. Because it'll wear you out. It'll get you mind, body, and soul. It seems like when you got so much of that built up in you, you can't talk to the good Lord right or nothing else. But anyway, I'm just going to say this little part about this meeting to show you how far this went. But we could talk to that pastor about quit bashing. Stop. Don't do it anymore. Just quit it. Just hang it up, man. Let it go. And he called for a meeting because it aggravated him so much, because we was telling him it's time to, in roundabout ways, so let it go. Let it go. But the thing about it is, he called for the meeting to, I don't know, I guess to bring it to a fester is the only thing I can figure. You know, me and Neil and Lisa was all there. But Neil looked at him and told him, said, listen, preacher, you got to quit that bashing. And it had got so far and so far gone, and I'm not bashing him. If that man told me right now, I'd take off at this door in a minute to go help him, because I love him, because I believe he's got a good heart. I believe that this unforgiveness has drove him to a place that he don't even want to be. But when Neil told him, said, you got to quit this bashing. And he looked at Neil and said, I think a demon's entered your mind to make you think this. I thought, oh my God, brother, this man is trying to help you, and that's what you come back with. I thought, what in the world? But the only bad part about it is I understand how he feels, because I could get there easy. Thank God that he gave me the heart that I can look up to him and tears running down my eyes and say, I don't want this. I don't want this. I don't want to be like this. Here's my prayer to God. When I leave out of this world, don't let me be holding a grudge against anybody. I don't want to leave out of here with that junk on me. Take it away from me. But the thing of it is, when Joseph's brothers got to Joseph, Reuben had finally talked him into it before he got there, so they had a long conversation watching him come. And there's so much anger built up, these guys want to kill him. So Reuben talked him in and said, no, let's just throw him in a pit and let it go. Just leave it at that. So he talked him into it. But if you remember, then the Amalekites come, they sold him into slavery to them. ripped that coat apart, went and told his dad a wild beast of the field had eaten. Then Joseph ended up spending about 7 years in prison. And I thought, what bitterness does is, bitterness passes on to the next person closest to you. Whether it's your kids or whoever, you're passing that stuff on to somebody. Because Neil, if he'll be honest like me, it passed on to us, and then we had to grab a hold of that thing again. Because we started down that same road. I'll be honest to tell you, I was headed down that road with, I thought, wait a minute, this is not who I am. This is not who I want to be. Then I started singing that song from my true heart that she just sung. God, I'm going to make room for you to do whatever you want to. Fix me. I mean, I'm not praying for him or her or them or even that pastor that hurt me. I'm praying for me right now. I'm praying that you open my heart and fix me. I'm the guy that needs fixed here. But the thing about it is, and I can tell you, I spent 7 years in prison. That's exactly how long I spent. And 7 years is a long time to be in prison. It feels like 100 years when you're in there. But at the end of all of it, if you remember, when it finally come down and he pulled off his mask and he showed the brothers after he gave them everything they needed and let them know his kindness, he pulled off the mask and let them know, said, it's me. It's me. It's Joseph, bro. Don't be scared. I'm not going to hurt you. I'm not here to hurt you. So, God, that's what I want to be. No matter what anybody does to me, I'm going to say, don't worry, brother. I'm not here to hurt you. I mean, you can hurt me all you want to. It's not my job to strike back. Because I like what this said. Humbleness don't get offended. Pride does. Pride gets offended. But the thing of it is, I like what he said next. He said, what you meant for evil, God used it for the good. So you know what? Sometimes getting offended is just the devil's way of giving you a gift that God can use. Sometimes getting offended. And I'm going to be quick tonight because I know it's Wednesday. I know the work week ain't done yet. You got a couple more days to go. And now Jamie might keep you extra after I'm done. I mean, you can get offended to him over that. But anyway, that's when I read that today, and I thought, I love what he said to the end of that. What you meant for evil, God turned it around and used it for good. He said he saved much people alive. You know, one of the things that I tell my boys, and I've learned this in the last couple of years teaching more than anything, don't you hold bitterness and unforgiveness against anybody, nobody. Because I don't want to see my boys go through that. Because I'm going to tell you a couple of stories of my own life and before I shut up here, and I won't be long. But here's what happened to me. I had a brother that got murdered in 1976. And then I had another brother that got murdered in 1979. The night that brother got murdered in 1979, I had another brother that same night that got shot 9 times and he almost died. They worked on him for a long time to save him. I mean a month and a half to save him. So that was almost 3 brothers murdered. And here's what happened to me. That the first one was murdered in 76, the second one in 79. In about probably about 2008 it was. And I had such an unforgiveness of bitterness against these guys that killed my 2 brothers. I thought, you know what? I could easily, here's what I thought. I'd like to get a long range rifle with a good scope on it and hide about a mile away, half a mile away, where I could burn a bullet right through their head and run across the mountain and they'd never know who did it. And I was thinking in my mind, I'd feel like a hero running across that mountain, knowing that I took them boys down. They killed my brothers. But little did I know, and I was in church. And I thought, well, I'd love to, and I carried that for a long time. And I had a brother that probably about 6 months before he died finally let it go. But what happened to me was, when I was 19 years old, I shot and killed my best friend. And I ended up in prison over it. And I've been praying to God to see when before the shooting happened with me and my best friend, I would stay at his mom and dad's house, or he'd stay at my mom and dad's house, and we was buddies. We was so close, me and his brother was the same age. When we got up in the morning to go to school, his mom brought him $5 in there, and she reached me $5. We was close as we could be. But then after I accidentally shot and killed her son, that whole family hated my guts. I mean, they hated me bad. And here I was hating the ones that killed my brothers. And I thought, boy, I've got a dilemma here. But anyway, I pulled in at the F&M one day, and I was laying up a cinder block garage down in Doran for a guy. And I went down to the F&M to get me something to drink and a couple of hot dogs. When I pulled in there at the F&M and walked through the door, I seen that guy kill my brother standing there in the store. And I thought, oh boy. I said, I'm going to grab him and I'm going to take him through that shelf there, right through that big plate glass window and out to the parking lot. And that's exactly what was on my mind. I said, if I can get him in the right position, and the Lord instantly started speaking in my head, I want you to walk up there and tell him that you love him and so do I. I thought, you've got to be out of your mind. You've got to done flip your biscuit this morning, bump your head when you get out of bed in heaven or something. That ain't going to happen. You know, and I was sitting there, I was arguing with the good Lord. I even got my mind off him for a minute. And I thought, why in the world should I forgive him? It's like God speaking in my heart and said, you killed my son and I forgave you. I thought, oh man, that's a low blow. That's a low blow. But I didn't realize that God was trying to help me. So I made the good Lord a deal. I said, I tell you what, if he's still in here, by the time I take this up to the counter, the stuff, and pay for it, I'll tell him. I'll do that much for you. Well, I was fixing me a cup of coffee. And I don't like cream and I don't like sugar in my coffee. But I poured about a pound of sugar in there, about a pound of cream, trying to take up some time because I thought, I got the good Lord beat here. He'll never know I'm pulling this wool on him. I got him. I'll stir this stuff until. But I seen that guy pay for his beer that he had in his hand, and he went out the door. I thought, real good, he's gone. I won't have to talk to him today. And the thing of it is, I snapped the lid on that old coffee, if you want to call it, that I'd made. And I took it up to the counter and I paid for it. And when I paid for it, I started out the door. I didn't know, but when that guy had paid for his beer, he bought 2 bags of ice and he turned left-handed to go to the ice cooler on the sidewalk at the store. So when I was coming out the door, he was coming back from the ice cooler and we was face to face. I thought, daggone, you can't beat the good Lord. He's slurping a peeled onion. But I was looking at him face to face. I said, brother, I want to tell you something real quick. When I was in that store, I wanted to take you through that aisle right there and through this plate glass window and out to this parking lot. But I said, the God that has forgiven me of everything I've done told me to come tell you that he loves you and so do I. And I said, that's all he told me to tell you. I'm out of here. So I walked towards my truck, and I got my truck, and I started off the hill there at that moment. And I tell you the truth, that's the lightest I've felt in 25 years. I thought, because you know, where it says, forgive us as we forgive them. That word forgive there, when you look it up, you'll see the word release. And so what Jesus was saying is, as I release him, you release me. Because what I didn't realize was it had a bigger hold on me than it had on him. So what I did that day is I released him and God released me. Because when I come off that hill, I knew I'd been released. Because I'm telling you, I felt like for the first time in my life, I felt like I weighed under 1,100 pounds for the first time in my life, because that was so heavy carrying it around. But let me tell you what else happened. I went up to the jail and see, I'd been praying. for God to fix the situation with that family where I had shot that boy. Fix this situation, Lord, because we was always close, man. They was like my family. Then here we are, the whole family hated me, and they had bunches of that family. I went up to the jailhouse to minister to the inmates. One of the officers called me to the central controller at that big glass window. He said, Randy, and I said, yeah. He said, come here. So I walked up to the window before I went up to the inmates, and he said, here. And he reached me a phone number out the window, and I said, what's that? He said, I don't know, but he said, that guy's called here 15 times saying, when I seen you, give you this number. And I thought, well, who is this? So the next morning I went home at night. I never got away from jail till about 11, 12 o'clock. When I got home that night, I went on to bed. Next morning I got up. First thing I did was call that number because I wondered who it was. When I called that number, it was a brother to the guy that I had shot. And I thought, oh. And instantly it hit me. You forgave him, and you've been asking me for some forgiveness from some people. I've been waiting on you. All I've been waiting on is you. So I said, hey, what are you doing? And his brother that hated me bad, me and him had a confrontation at the courthouse. Had went down there to see this brother, and I didn't know it, but this brother had been homeless for 25 years in the street. This whole story is kind of wild, but I just wanted to tell you the power of forgiveness. But he said, I'm homeless. He said, I'm just an alcoholic bum living in a tent down in Mobile, Alabama. And I said, wow, you've been living in a tent? He said, yeah. He said, for almost 25 years. I thought, gosh, almighty. And I said, what do you need? He said, well, my brother came down here, and that's the brother that really hated me. He met me face to face in the hallway at the courthouse. Me and him about fit in the hallway, and my lawyer grabbed me by the shoulder and said, you come on, the last thing you need before you go to this trial is to get in a fight with another family member. But he said that brother had come down there looking for him, and he said people told him, said he's staying up under a tent, up under a bridge up here. And he said, so he come up there, up under that bridge, drove all the way to Mobile, Alabama, and he run in there and looked up under the bridge, and he'd seen this, looked like Rumpelstiltskin, about what he looked like. His beard was about 3 foot long, and so was his hair, and he was a greasy mess. And he asked him, he said, does anybody know my brother? And said his name. He said, he looked down there, and he said, yeah, I'm him. He said, no, you're not my brother. He said, yeah, I'm Terry. He said, he looked back up at him, and he said, my God. He said, look at you, you're a mess. Said he turned all the way around to get in the car, was going to drive back to Virginia. Said that before he got in the car, he hollered at him and said, why can't you ever forgive me? He said, my brother looked back up at me with the anger and hating you the way he does. He looked back at me and he said, I can't help myself. He said, my brother looked back up at me and he said, let me tell you something. He said, Randy Keen's turned his whole life around. He's a minister up at the jail now. He said, and if he can do it, you sure can do it. Because they knew me. He said, when he said that to me, he said, it's like a lightning bolt went through me. And he said, so I thought, if he's a minister at the jail, that's where I'll call. And that's why the jailer said he got 15 calls from that guy. If you gave him the phone number yet, he gave him the phone number yet. But as bad as he hated me, that guy said that. That guy wouldn't have used them words in a million years. Except for where I forgave that fella at F&M that day. God caused him to use them very words. But the thing about it is, I asked him, I said, what can I do for you? He said, I got a favor to ask you. He said, I know it's been a long time, it's been a lot of anger, a lot under the bridge with us, a lot of unforgiveness. But he said, I don't know how much longer I got to live. I've drank so much, my liver's gone, I've lived homeless, and he said, I want to know if you would give me a bus ticket home. He said, well, my family's fixing to have a family reunion. Will you get me a bus ticket home and let me stay with you while I'm there? I said, well, sure. So I got him a bus ticket to Bristol. I drove down there and picked him up. When he got off of that bus, there's no way I could believe that was him. That guy had a beard to his knees, and his hair was down to his knees, and he was a greasy mess. It was all I could stand to do to drive him from Bristol to my house. I told him, I said, the first thing we're gonna have to do is stop and get you some clothes. And get you a razor or a brush hog. I don't even know where to start at. Yeah. But I mean, it was a mess. But so we stopped and got him some clothes, and I got a bunch of extra shaving stuff because I know it's gonna take a while. And so I said, let me trim that beard up for you. And I just thought it was amazing that here I was after all these years and all this anger and all this unforgiveness, that I was sitting there in that chair with that guy, trimming his beard and getting him ready for his family reunion. I considered that as an honor. That was a prayer act. I don't care how bad he smelled, but it sure did make my heart feel good. I thought, you know, I forgave him. God's fixing things for me, and here's one family member. But after we got him, he wanted me to cut all that off and cut his hair short. Time we got done, got him new tennis shoes, new clothes. Time we got ready and that day, he looked better than I did, which that ain't saying a whole lot, but he looked better than I did. I thought, hey bro, you clean up pretty good. He said, most homeless people do. That's what he told me. But I got a picture of him at the house. But anyway, he took me around from house to house to house to house of all of his kin people. And they come out that door ready to fight. He stopped them and talked to them for a minute, then they come out to the car. I mean, then we'd stand there and have a conversation. They said, what did it make you feel like when you did this, when that happened? This? I said, listen, I was in a side cell by myself for 109 days after that shooting. 19 years old, nobody to talk to, and sitting in a side cell by myself with all that on me as a 19-year-old kid. I told him, I said, I would go crazy a while and I'd cry a while. I'd go crazy a while and I'd cry a while. I'd sleep 20 minutes and wake up and walk around that little cell they had me in. A 900 laps. Sit down. I said, it about drove me crazy. And one by one, I got to watch them guys start crying. They said, we didn't even know that you was going through that. We just figured that you was taking, like you was brigadier or something. I said, no, it was the exact opposite. But one by one, that day, we all got reunited and they had a different outlook about me. Well, anyway, I'll say this last piece of the story and then I'll shut up. But I was doing a drug meeting and Marianne had called me and said, you know, Bobby, remember Bobby Mullins Jr. had the Ford dealership over? She said, Bobby just now got off the lung machine in Kentucky and we're going to bring him back here. And I wanted to know if you would try to help Bobby with his alcohol problem, drug problem. I said, sure, we try to help everybody. So Bobby come back here, and Bobby came to our drug meeting about 5 months, and then there one night we was up doing a service, and Bobby come up, knelt down to the altar, and started bawling, and gave his life to the Lord. But I was telling the exact same story in my drug meeting one night that I just told you here. And here's the power of forgiveness. Unforgiveness grows, and so does forgiveness. I mean, both of them's got wheels turning. But I was telling that same story that I just told y'all, and I always had to pick Bobby up because he hadn't got his license back yet. I give him a ride to the drug meeting, and I take him back home over to his apartment. But after I finished the story that I just told y'all about forgiveness, I was taking Bobby home, and as we got just a little past here, we hadn't got across the railroad tracks yet, Bobby said, you know what, Randy? He said, that story that you told tonight, he said, that was for me. Because if you remember, there was a guy, McLaughlin guy, that killed Bobby's brother, Ernie, shot him and crawled up under the truck, and then he shot him a couple more times and killed him up under the truck. So if you remember that happened, so Bobby told me, I said, how did it hit you, Bobby? He said, well, every year at about Christmas time, I send McLaughlin a Christmas card. And I tell him, your day's coming. And he said, I sign it my dead brother's name. He said, I've done that every year since that happened. That happened a lot of years ago. And he said, but after hearing you tell that story tonight, he said, I decided this year I'm going to send him a Christmas card that says, I forgive you. And I'm going to sign it Bobby Jr. this time. So not only forgiveness takes off like an arrow. One of the greatest things that I ever done for myself was at the F&M that night. because with everything that had happened, I realized today what the enemy meant for evil, that God had turned it around for the good. So I'm just wanting to say this here tonight. You know, it's kind of like the story I was just saying about that pastor, and the story I was just telling you about myself. If there's one thing that I can tell you tonight is, it's kind of like this thing that I seen this morning. Humbleness does not get offended. Pride does. Pride does. And to me, when somebody does something that offends me, the reason it offends me is I probably got too much pride. Maybe it's God's way of trying to help me get my pride back down to size. Help me shrink old Randy back down to where he belongs, because it's not all about me. And I'm thinking, before they took him to the cross, they whipped him, spit on him, crucified him, cussed him, mocked him, talked about him, and everything else you could have done to him. If anybody had a reason to get unforgiveness going, it would have been him, not me. So I just mostly wanted to tell you tonight, I wanted to make it short because I know at least Jamie and 2 or 3 others, y'all got a couple more days to go. Me, I've tried to get some work, but ain't too many people wants to work somebody on a cane, I've realized. But it's kind of like that song that Sasha just sung, God, I want to make room for you. I mean, I don't care if they killed my brother, Lord, I want to make room for you. Whatever you have to come down and take out of this old heart of mine. That wasn't an easy thing to do, but one thing that I know of, if I could give God room to work on Randy for that, I feel like I can give him room to work on me for anything. Because one thing I can tell you is, and I'm sure there's probably not a person sitting in this room tonight that can't say I've been hurt and I've carried this, but I can tell you one thing from experience. There is, other than giving my life to the Lord and knowing I'm going to heaven, letting that bitterness and unforgiveness go is about the best feeling that I ever felt. I swear it's like what do you call that, where the right weighs 600 pounds, my 600 pound life, and they come over and they weigh 155. It's kind of like I pulled on the F&M parking lot weighing 600 pounds, but I pulled off there weighing 155. Because I'm telling you, the good Lord cut some stuff off of me, right? And one thing about it is he brought me back down to size. So I'm all with Michael Bolton. He said, time to get down to the heart of the matter. And sometimes our will gets weak and our thoughts get scattered. They sure do. Mine's got scattered. My wheels got weak. I didn't want to tell God. I didn't want to tell people that I forgive you. But because your thoughts get kind of scattered, you know what I mean? And my will gets weak. But one thing about it is, I feel like today, I mean, I haven't got nothing against anybody. And I just can't figure out nothing with as much as I've grown. The one thing I can tell you is, getting rid of unforgiveness will make you grow. I feel like I'm matured to the level that I don't believe anything anybody will ever do to me, I will carry it. I believe I'll be able to sit down, like Sasha just sung, and Lord, I'm making room for you. I want you to get in here and do what God does. Just get in here and jump all over old Randy and do what God does, because this old boy here don't want no more of that. I don't even want to go through 600 pound life one time. That's enough for me. I want to stay a skinny boy. I don't know. That's tough, but I'm telling you, I like that. It's a good deal. Make sure it's all I got to say. I put on here, let it go or let it grow. Because the sad part about it is to me, and I'm not picking on that guy, that's the reason I said this a little bit and quit. But if one of the things that probably me, Neil, and Lisa all can agree to, that thing's growing and growing and growing and growing, and it's destroying. It's destroying his ministry, it's destroying his friendships, it's destroying everything. And then for a friend, not only a friend, but a co-pastor of the church, for him to say, listen, brother, you gotta let that anger go. And for it to offend you so much that you would jump up and say, Satan must have entered your head to make you think that about me. For it to get that far. And the sad part about it is, truly when you talk to him, I don't even think he thinks he's there. You know, like I said, I'm not picking on him, I'm just saying, where forgiveness will take you to. God forbid that anybody would ever get to that place, that they would say something like that. And, I mean, if you've corrected me, correct me. Man, I need correction. I'll be the first to say, hey, you know, if Neil would have come up and said something like that to me, I'd say, well, Neil, explain to me what am I doing here, and so I can get this thing in reverse if it's that bad. Because if one of the persons that you know is your friend and your co-pastor is strong enough to tell you that, you know what I mean? Then I think it's worth talking about. But anyway, I know I didn't say much. I didn't come down here to say much. But forgive. If you got unforgiveness in your heart, I'm here to tell you tonight. Because one of the things I can tell you is I really understand what Jesus said, and he made sure he put it in the Lord's Prayer. As I forgive them, you forgive me. And that word forgive means release. And I tell you one thing, when you're carrying that thing, and it's so glued to you, it's like a magnet. You can get your mind off for it for a minute, and it'll suck you back to it. You can get your mind off for a minute, and it'll suck you right back to it. Me, the best thing that ever happened to me is that day when I released that guy, God released me. Then he put back together the relationship that was destroyed through that shooting, and then it healed Bobby, but Bobby's out of here now. But one thing about it is, Bobby went out of here after he forgave the guy that killed his brother. And by me being able to tell that story, sure that all that stuff hurt. It was a big mess in my life. I can tell many people it's been through much more than that story I just told you. But the thing about it is, the enemy meant it for bad, but God used it for good. He turned it all around. So I always tell them, you know, if somebody hurts me, God, show me where I'm supposed to use this at. Because according to that story, there's only one reason that you got hurt in the first place, was God was wanting to use it for good. And hey, I'm one that I'll tell God in a minute, whatever I got to suffer for your good, I am ready to suffer for it. But anyhow, you got anything against anybody? Don't beat them up. I like what I told that guy, short and sweet. I said, God told me to tell you I love you, and he loved you. That's all he told me to tell you, and I'm out of here. Then I went and threw that coffee at me. I had to get rid of that, because I don't carry that thing.